You're good.
Very good. All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Village of Ridgewood Village Council regular public meeting, April 14th, 2021. The time is 8 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of the schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Due to the fact that we continue to meet through a remote meeting format, there are some required announcements to be made. Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Thank you, Mayor. All participants are muted during this meeting. Anyone wishing to make comments may do so during comments from the public and during the public hearings on any ordinances by dialing *9 on your phones to raise your hand. And then once you are recognized, dialing *6 on your phones to unmute, or by raising your hand icon if you are on your computers. You must state your name and address for the record. Members of the public may also submit written comments to us for any future remote meetings by either email to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk, at djackson@ridgewoodnj.net with the subject line "Comments for Village Council Meeting," or a written letter to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk, at Village Hall. Written comments must have a name and address and be received by 4 p.m. on the day before the remote meeting in order to be read into the record during that meeting. All written comments must adhere to the time limits already set by ordinance. Members of the public commenting during a remote meeting shall not act in any manner to disrupt the meeting. If anyone becomes disruptive during the meeting, they will be muted. If time permits, the disruptive individual shall be allowed to speak after all other members of the public are provided an opportunity to comment. Any continued disruption may result in the member being prevented from speaking during the remainder of this meeting. Disruptive conduct includes, but is not limited to, shouting, interruption, and the use of profanity.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Roll call.
Councilwoman Perrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
And Mayor Newton.
Here, please join us for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the
and
republic
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us for a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation, all of our first responders, and all victims of hate crimes. Thank you. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statement of funds on hand as of March 31st, 2021 be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Perrin.
Yeah, I understand it to be Village Council's bills from February 2021 and the check register from the month of March 2021, the village, the water utility, and parking. So yes.
Okay. Seaton.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
You forgot me, Heather.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Reynolds. I thought-
Yes.
Okay. I move that the Village Council minutes of February 10th and March 10th, 2021, having been reviewed by the Village Council and now available in the Village Clerk's office, be approved as submitted.
And
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I did, Pam.
Okay, thank you. Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. So we have some proclamations this evening. Our first proclamation will be read by Deputy Mayor Seaton, Tree Planting Month, and April 20th is Arbor Day.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood is proud of its many trees, which contribute so much to the beauty and comfortable ambiance of the village. And whereas trees in our village increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a certain source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world in recognition of the importance of trees. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for its extensive plantings and its programs for the maintenance of trees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim April 2021.
It's
as-
actually, I just want to correct it. I apologize. It's actually April 30th.
Okay.
Okay.
April 2021 as Tree Planting Month in the Village of Ridgewood, and April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day. Urges all residents to plant trees to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our village's urban forestry program.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
you.
Councilman Walsh will be reading Distracted Driving Crackdown Campaign.
Thank you. Whereas distracted driving is a serious, life-threatening practice that is preventable, and whereas distracted driving can result in injuries and deaths to all road users, motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. And whereas distracted driving occurs when drivers divert their attention away from the task of driving to focus on another activity instead. And whereas in 2018 alone, distracted driving related crashes resulted in 2,841 deaths and 400,000 injuries on our nation's roads. And whereas in circumstance in 50% of all motor vehicle crashes in 2018. And whereas the state of New Jersey will participate in the nationwide Distracted Driving 2021 Crackdown from April 1st through April 30th, 2021, in an effort to raise awareness and decrease driver distraction through a combination of enforcement and education. And whereas the national slogan for the campaign is "You drive, you text, you pay." And whereas a reduction in distracted driving in New Jersey will save lives on our roadways. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council, the Village of Ridgewood, does hereby proclaim its support both locally and nationally for the 2021 You Drive, You Text, You Pay Distracted Driving Crackdown, April 1st through 30th, 2021, and pledges to increase awareness of the dangers of distracted driving.
Thank you, Councilwoman Walsh. Councilwoman Perrin will be reading a proclamation recognizing National Drinking Water Week.
Whereas water is a valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas as measures of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas each citizen of our village is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as National Drinking Water Week in the Village of Ridgewood.
Thank you, Councilwoman Perrin. Councilwoman Reynolds will be reading Building Safety Month Proclamation.
Whereas our village's continuing efforts to address the critical issues of safety, energy efficiency, water conservation, and resilience in the built environment that affect our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster, give us confidence that our structures are safe and sound. And whereas our confidence is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians, dedicated members of the International Code Council, use a governmental consensus process that brings together local, state, and federal officials with expertise in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect Americans in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, and play. And whereas the international codes, the most widely adopted building safety, energy, and fire prevention codes in the nation, are used by most U.S. cities, counties, and states. These modern building codes also include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings. And whereas prevent, prepare, protect, building codes save, the theme for Building Safety Month 2021 encourages all Americans to raise awareness about the importance of safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2021 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment, and recognizes that the implementation of safety codes of local and state agencies has saved lives and protected homes and businesses. And whereas Building Safety Month 2021 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure that the places where we live, learn, work, worship, and play are safe and sustainable, and recognizes that countless lives have been saved due to the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider projects to improve building safety and sustainability at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2021 as Building Safety Month and encourages all residents to join in participation in Building Safety Month activities.
Thank you, Councilwoman Reynolds. And Councilman Walsh will wrap it up with our proclamations identifying May as Older Americans Month.
Whereas the Village of Ridgewood includes a growing number of older Americans who have built resilience and strength over their lives through successes and difficulties. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood benefits when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are included and encouraged to share their successes and stories of resilience. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood recognizes our need to nurture ourselves, reinforce our strength, and continue to thrive in times of both joy and difficulty. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood can foster communities of strength by creating opportunities to share stories and learn from each other, engaging older adults through education, recreation, and service, encouraging people of all ages to celebrate connections and resilience. And whereas the 2021 theme is Communities of Strength, this special recognition will celebrate the strength of older adults in the aging network, with special emphasis on the power of connection and engagement in building strong communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2021 as Older Americans Month and urges every resident to recognize older adults and the people who support them as essential contributors to the strength of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Walsh. And with that, we will go to comments from the public, not to exceed 3 minutes per person, 40 minutes in total.
You're muted.
Mayor Newton, you were going to make an announcement.
I'm sorry?
You were going to make an announcement before the public comments regarding the RFP.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I forgot. I didn't make it in my notes. So just so everyone, I'm sorry. All right. So everyone understands the Village Council met at 6:50, between 6:50 and actually 7:30. And at that time discussed the RFP for the gatehouse up at the Habernickel Park. And the RFP will be issued. I hear a really bad echo. The RFP will be issued, we expect in very short order within the next few weeks. So if anyone's calling in about that, just at least be aware that the RFP will be going out very soon. So thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. Now, comments from the public.
Okay.
Not to exceed 3 minutes per person, 40 minutes in total. Go ahead, Dylan.
First person is a caller in, ending in 9557. Please unmute.
Hello, good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Erin Taddy, 419 Bogart Avenue.
Hi, Erin. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm calling in tonight because I'm happy to see that the Village Council is officially discussing adopting a social media policy as per the agenda. In my opinion, it's been an overly long time coming. Having been cyberbullied and victimized by a sitting member of the Planning Board in September of 2019, this issue is very, very personal to me. I am especially appreciative of Councilman Perrin, who was kind enough to drop off a copy to my home a few weeks ago. In fact, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincerest gratitude to her because I strongly feel that she has been at the helm of pushing this initiative. Unfortunately, I can't say I have the same confidence in other sitting members of the Village Council because you chose to allow this person in the Planning Board to retain their position. And I can only say that I feel as though certain members were culpable in this unfortunate situation. Instead of sending a message that hate has no place in our village, you sent the message that cyberbullying and threats to innocent residents will be tolerated and condoned. While I think that this is a step in the right direction, I certainly hope that going forward, should a person who represents the village in any capacity, be it as an employee or a volunteer, they should be immediately relieved of their position if they engage in cyberbullying in any capacity. Comments about a resident's appearance, threats to their physical well-being should be cause for immediate termination. Vulgar and classless language, while not the legal definition of cyberbullying, should at the very least not be tolerated. While it is extremely unfortunate that certain members of the VC voted to allow this woman to retain her position, I am hopeful that due to adopting this new social media policy, nobody else will be forced to be victimized twice. First, by the person who did this, and secondly, by the Village Council who chose to allow her to retain her position. I would like to strongly encourage you to carefully vet any residents who wish to serve the village in any capacity. I would also like to suggest that as an entity, you have a conversation with certain members of the Planning Board about making better choices going forward. As a matter of fact, as I put a few weeks ago, I recently saw the same member of the Planning Board engage in a discussion about offering to provide a resident's personal information with somebody that they had a problem with. Again, I want to thank Councilman Perrin, and I encourage all involved to make kinder choices going forward. I sincerely hope that this is the beginning of a zero-tolerance policy for bullying in any capacity. And I certainly hope that if this should happen again, the Village Council will choose not to further victimize the person who's been bullied, but immediately remove the person from their position. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next person is Eleanor Gruber.
Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving Street. I understand you're considering removing the open space tax in Ridgewood. This is a false economy. Without the tax, which amounts to $34 a year from the average homeowner, you are no longer eligible for any funding from the county or the state. Without this tax, we wouldn't have been able to purchase Habernacle. We wouldn't have been able to enlarge the Monroe playing field. We wouldn't have been allowed to purchase Shedler. There are other possible acquisitions in Ridgewood. Even though we are considered almost fully built, there are properties listed on a wish list from the original Open Space Committee in around 2002 on. We never know when a piece of property becomes available. We need our open space. We need more green space in Ridgewood. I urge you, keep the open space tax. If you look at your property tax bill, you pay lots of taxes there, county tax, state tax, library tax, and the smallest tax on your bill is the open space tax. We need to have these funds available so that we can apply for grants from the state and county. Deputy Mayor Seaton just made a lovely proclamation about the need for trees. Trees thrive in open space. I really urge you, there are other ways to cut costs. This is just, if I can say, cutting off your hands, nose to spite your face, or however it goes. But please keep that tax in. It was approved by 80% of the village when it went in. I know we tried to raise it at one point, it wasn't raised. Okay, so it's lower, but it's so little money and the value is so big. If we didn't have that tax, Tabernacle would be filled with homes, and I think nobody would be happy about that. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next is Rourke Hallaby. Please unmute.
Good evening. Name and address for the record. Please unmute.
Yes, Rourke Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. Regarding the budget, and by the way, I agree with Eleanor Gruber's comments 100%. What foolishness, what foolishness. Anyway, regarding the budget, it is imperative that Bob Rooney holds 2 or 3 town hall meetings that are heavily advertised to explain the budget to the Ridgewood residents. This is a highly complex budget in trying times, and the public is entitled to know what is going on. There is nothing transparent about the budget process. Plus, in all candor, we have the added complication that the mayor with sons...
I'm going to call a point of order. I'm not going to be the...
And you will not interrupt me.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to
You will
call
not
a point
interrupt me
of order.
because you are the mayor and you have
I
children in the
will
police department.
Point of order. Point of order.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to...
With the mystery member of the council with sons in the police department and the fire department does not recuse themselves from budget considerations. Regarding Shedler, I continue to be confused by what's going on. Okay, and ironically, and now I'm going to add another minute to my time because you interrupted me.
No, I'm sorry. We're going to continue and we're going to follow the decorum of this meeting.
Decorum, madam, it is decorum applies to you. Decorum applies to you by interrupting me.
Mr. Hallaby, I'm not arguing with you. I'm going to give you one last warning before we mute you.
Ma'am, if you
Okay.
stop me
Can we
from
please mute
expressing
Mr.
myself,
Hallaby? I'm not going to
I
be
will do what I can to protect my rights.
Kindly mute Mr. Hallaby and we'll make a decision whether or not he can speak again at the end of the public comment. Let's continue, Dylan.
Okay, the next person is Scarpa.
Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Linda.
Okay.
State name and address for the record, Linda. Go ahead.
Scarpa, 569 Northern Parkway, Ridgewood. This is a budget meeting, so of course I looked on your webpage, and you have 2 budget proposals. One's user-friendly, but really, I was really looking for detailed. I understand, because I placed a call, that the big budget is in the courtroom. It's about 1,000 pages, but we can't go look at it because the building is closed. So, you know, I'm going basically by what you have stated, but I remember in the past, you were trying to pass, or it was discussed, a 4.7 municipal increase with a 1.99 school tax, which is about 6.69 increase. That might be a bit lower, but I don't know. I guess the bottom line is, you know, the budget's really not in detail and transparent. I really wanted to look in particular about the EMT plan, the defund the EMT, which is clearly not available to me or anybody else. So I opened all the documents, you probably know that, and I looked at the YouTube tape budget meeting on February 12th, 2021. And that brings me to the defunding of the EMT and why it's such a bad plan based on actual words and open information. It's bad for the village, the police, and the fire. The EMT this plan will cost the village more taxes, less first responders available during a pandemic, and less in safety. If the plan goes through, the community service that the EMT does, like Ridgewood High School EMS program and others, will be gone along with volunteers. The awful term defund the EMT was actually used during that February 12th, 2021. And I'm not going to say who it was, you know who you are, but it said, quote unquote, the council has to make the decision before we go forward with the budget as to whether you want to basically defund the paid EMT and put money toward paid firefighters, which really will result in more taxes and less first responders and less safety. In the interest of truth, like I said, I looked at this budget meeting. A person asked, what's the cost of 2 firefighters? A person answered 37,000 plus bennies. The truth is, Oprah did, that's not true. 2 firefighters with $38,364 in salary, $2,000 stipend, and $50,000 in benefits and pension will cost $180,728, and we, the taxpayers, will be on the hook for it. 9 paid EMTs cost $70,000 annually, and it's not even funded by the taxpayer. Please, please wake up, Ridgewood. I encourage all people to view all of this. We have a voice. Council members, mayor, village, you're all paid elected officials. You have to listen to what the village wants. We do not want the EMT who served the village for decades defunded at all. We want them fully funded for the selfless work they do during a pandemic. We do not want the police and fire overtaxed.
Time is up.
What your plan will do.
I'm sorry, Linda. Linda, I'm sorry. Your
That's okay.
Time is up. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Next.
All right. Next is Siobhan Winograd. Please
Good
unmute.
evening. Name and address for the record. Unmute, Siobhan. Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Hi, Siobhan Cram, Winograd, 274 Ivy Place. I want to echo what Ellie said, that I feel that the open space thwarts overdevelopment and it really solidifies what the public wants. I also had sent you guys a bunch of information. I don't believe you can do it without flying in the face of public will, as a public vote put this tax in place for Ridgewood. But the real reason I was calling was I was relieved in the pre-meeting to see that the 2 line items from Shudler were removed from the consent agenda. I don't believe at this point that's where they belong, and it's more transparent to keep them out in the open as their own discussion points. As you guys know, I've been to several meetings, written several emails. I've been to several subcommittee meetings, and I still have the same question. I'm unclear, as is the rest of the community, as to what makes the land historic. I've gone to open space, I've gone to Parks and Rec, and no one seems to know that. I would appreciate a copy detailing not the house, because I understand that, but the land. I'm also concerned because there's multiple plans, and the only plan that the public has seen was the ad hoc plan from 2017. I understand that there was a sort of double secret probation plan in January 2020. That one's done, but there was a fall plan that you guys all seem to be behind and was recently submitted that SHPO just rejected. I feel that in order for the public to have this conversation, and because it's COVID, the best thing would be for you guys to publish that plan on the website. So even though it's rejected, you could note that, but that way the public could see the new plan. And we would all be on the same page. So I'm hoping you can address that. I mean, I think at this point, it's a big project. It needs to move forward, but people need to really see where we're at with it. And I may be wrong, according to what I have seen, the last plan that was submitted was September 2020. I know that it's been rejected by SHPO, but that was your last foot forward, and the public really should see it before we go forward. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good evening, Siobhan.
All right. Next person is Stacy Antine. Please unmute.
Good. Stacy, please unmute. There you go.
Huh.
Name and address for the
Did
record.
I do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Stacy Antine, 1057 Hillcrest Road. I just want to say I attended the special public meeting tonight, and I wanted to express my thanks to the Village Council and the staff for finalizing the RFP tonight. And I really appreciate it. It's been a really tough year with COVID, and just knowing that this RFP is getting ready to go out and being finalized. And I really look forward to participating in the process. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacy. Have a great evening. You're echoing. I'm sorry, Dylan. I can't hear you.
We have no other, sorry.
You have no one else?
No one else.
I have one written comment.
Well, hang on one moment, please.
Sure.
Would we like to invite Mr. Hallaby back in if he'll follow our procedures of decorum? He's welcome to come in and complete his comments.
I say we wait till the end of the meeting.
Okay, I think I'm going to invite, I don't know, how late our meeting will run and whether or not he'll stay for the entire duration. He's here this evening right now. He's welcome to be invited back in to complete his comments. We'll remind him not to direct any comments to any member on the dais or in the Zoom, and to keep his comments appropriate.
Okay, he did raise his hand, so I'll bring him back in.
Very good, thank you.
Please unmute.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hallaby, we're going to give you an additional minute to wrap up your comments. Thank you.
It has to be more like 2 minutes, frankly.
It's going to be an additional minute to wrap up your comments. Thank you. Go ahead.
I was talking about the fact that the budget process is not transparent and that Bob Rooney should have public meetings in which he can discuss with the public what it is the budget is all about. Also, regarding Shedler, I continue to be confused by what is going on. Ironically, anytime I have a question, I go to SHPO, not to Village Hall, because SHPO answers my questions within 24 hours in a clear and manner as possible. I wish I could say the same about the Village Council. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, but there have been 4 plans for the property. The first and the only one that has been shown to the public and approved by the Village Council is the one that was developed under the aegis of the ad hoc committee back in December 2017. I call that Plan A.
All right, Mr. Hallaby, I'm going to just go ahead. Finish.
Ma'am, but you took away at least a minute of my time.
All right, I'm giving you a couple of seconds back to finish your comments. Don't waste them. Take them. Seize the moment, Rorik.
Well, that's not how I work, and I think this is decorum gone amok.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We're gonna.
When I do, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right. Very good. Go ahead, Heather. We're going to close the telephone call-in comments, and we'll go to the written.
Okay, this is from Linda McNamara, 575 Knickerbocker Road. Dear Mayor, Village Council members, Village Manager, Village Attorney, thank you for the opportunity to once again voice my concerns regarding topics discussed at last week's meeting. 1, thank you to our mayor and the village for a very successful Stop Asian Hate event, which occurred this past Saturday. 2, please consider looking for a better solution to the issues that have come to light regarding our emergency services team. They have performed so well for our village residents during all the years I have lived in Ridgewood. I'm indebted to them, many who were friends and high school students that volunteered their services for the good of us all. 3, please move forward with what is needed to ensure that Stacy Antine and the health barn can remain in their current location with a lease that is beneficial to them as well as to the village. Ridgewood loves the health barn. We hardly are unanimous on anything, but in this case we are. 4, please consider installing a permanent guardrail and or fence on the roof of the garage immediately. It has become an attractive nuisance to our young people and could result in a tragedy and no event. It is a terrible location on so many levels, especially the top level. 5, do not get rid of the open space tax. If anything, it should be increased. 6, we need parking solutions that attract people to Ridgewood, which would include free parking and rates that are consistent throughout the CBD. People love the pedestrian malls. 7, 6-foot fences had a purpose. It was a needed condition to installing a pool for a multitude of safety concerns. Mr. Rogers' suggestions sound sensible and workable. Sincerely, Linda McNamara.
That's it. Okay, good. We're going to close public comments, and just a few notes. I just want to say there was no vote on any planning board member on that matter. It was internal. That's how it was handled, and it was handled internally. In terms of the plans for the Shedler property, I believe there were 2 plans submitted to SHPO. One which initially had who did not reflect the Shedler ad hoc committee plan that included pickleball courts, a concession stand, gazebo, and something else, but I don't recall what the last item was. In any event, and the new one that was revised that is reflective. And if there are any questions anyone has, they can email me directly, and we'll work very hard to make certain those questions are answered. And I think that's it. We will go on to the village manager's report. Village manager, you're up.
Sure. So I just want to state that all residential parking rules, regulations, and restrictions will be enforced beginning May 1st. Also effective May 1st, the overnight parking restrictions of 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. will be enforced throughout the village. Ridgewood Water is hosting a virtual open house to provide the public with an opportunity to learn more about water quality. After a short presentation, time will be set aside for customers to ask questions in the chat box and for them to be answered by a member of the Ridgewood Water team. The virtual open house will be held via Zoom on April 20th at 12 noon, and the flyer for the virtual open house is on Ridgewood Water's website. We encourage you to take the time to attend and ask your questions. COVID-19 vaccines, we are still encouraging our residents to register on as many sites as possible. The village is holding vaccine clinics for Ridgewood residents. We were supposed to have one today, but because it was J&J and they were recalled, we did not have one. If you are a Ridgewood resident and you're one of the categories currently authorized to receive a vaccine, please go to the village website, look below the tiles of the narrative, click on the link to register. Once you do register, you will receive a reply email with a receipt, which means we have received it. We will be in touch with you once we know we have vaccines available to administer. Styrofoam recycling, this is for the big packing pieces of styrofoam only, will take place at the Graden Pool parking lot on April 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or until the trucks are full. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. is for Ridgewood residents only. After that time, all Bergen County residents may bring their styrofoam for recycling. Graden Pool membership is now on Community Pass through April 30th. There is a 10% early bird discount, so save some money by getting your membership sometime this month. The pool season runs from June 5th through September 6th, which is Labor Day. Cancellation of events due to COVID-19, the annual baseball parade and family fun event, the Earth Day Fair, Daffodil Festival and Dog Parade, Touch a Truck, and the Memorial Day Run. Village Council upcoming meetings are broadcast live on public access channels, also on our website and through YouTube. So April 28th is a Village Council work session at 7:30 p.m. May 5th is a Village Council work session at 7:30 p.m. And then our public meeting in May is May 12th at 8 o'clock p.m. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Councilwoman Perrin?
Thank you, Mayor. Green Ridgewood has not met since our last meeting. However, we are having the Styrofoam Drive, as the village manager mentioned, on April 17th at Graden Pool parking lot. And we are also having a forum, an open house about renewable energy advocating, and that will be on April 29th. It's being sponsored by Green Ridgewood and the Public Library Sustainability Series. That's at 7 p.m. and pre-registration is required. The Open Space Committee hasn't met since our last meeting with the council here, but it is meeting on Thursday. Similarly, the Central Business District Advisory Committee is meeting tomorrow and hasn't met since our last meeting. The Chamber of Commerce met this morning, and we talked about the parking restrictions being reinstated and the other ideas for parking that are going to come up later in our meeting. They are pleased with the progress on scheduling of the pedestrian mall, I would say. I mentioned that the council is considering ways of making empty storefronts more attractive, and I am circulating to the directors, at least, the samples that we have from other towns, what they're doing. Let's see. We also had a report on nonprofits and how they're faring during the pandemic from Ernie Lamour, who is the director at the YMCA. The Chamber of Commerce is revamping its website, and that's about all I have.
Great. Thank you, Councilwoman Perrin. Councilwoman Reynolds?
Hi, thank you, Mayor. I haven't had any meetings since our last Village Council meeting, but the Citizen Safety Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow night at 7:30. So if anybody wants to join, Zoom in. Thank you.
Safety first. Councilwoman Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll report on our Village Board of Ed meeting. So a lot of stuff going on in the school district, which is great. April 19th, they're going to return to half-day instruction at the schools, and they're hoping that this is going to be a positive impact on the students, getting them back into a routine, getting them back into school, getting them back to seeing friends. So they're very happy. At this point, they have most of the teachers, and Mayor, you can, if you have the number, I didn't write down the statistic, but most of the teachers have been vaccinated, and they continue to ensure that that the teachers get vaccinated so that they can also return to this model of teaching, so that again, more kids can get back into school. They are following all COVID restrictions still. So they are making sure that surfaces are clean, people are wearing masks, that they're going to follow all of the restrictions that are in place according to the state. They're talking about graduation and what that might look like. They're hoping that they're going to be able to do what they did last year and certainly have the students in a graduation ceremony that is tradition for Ridgewood. So we're hoping that that happens. The only question is what they will be able to do with guests and the possibility of having guests in the bleachers, or again, perhaps having to televise it and just having that special moment for the students on the RHS Stadium field. So that was it for our Board of Ed meeting. My PRC meeting meets on the 27th. And then today I was happy to attend the virtual authors luncheon for the Ridgewood Library. It was a great event. It was Harlan Coben was our moderator, and Madeline Miller, the author of Circe. They had a great conversation. I think it was well attended and really enjoyable to watch via Zoom. And we're hoping next year the authors luncheon will be in person so we can all attend. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Councilwoman Walsh. Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of announcements. April 19th from 8 to 9 p.m. via Zoom will be the first artist talks held this year by sponsored by the Ridgewood Arts Council. It'll feature Ridgewood's own Ali Stroker. So anybody who's interested could RSVP at the at the email address ridgewoodartscouncilevents@gmail.com. So that's sure to be a good one. And then on April 30th at 10 a.m., Mahmoud Hamza, resident and member of the Shade Tree Commission, is going to be involved in a small ceremony to dedicate 2 trees on near Veterans Field for first responders, grocery store workers, pretty much everybody who's been out there for the pandemic. And the mayor and council are invited to attend. So that's on April 19th at 10 a.m. So anybody who's available could surely stop by and be a part of the ceremony. And the Shade Tree Commission met yesterday, and unfortunately, the emerald ash borer is really all over Ridgewood right now, and it's infected lots of different trees. So the commission wants to get together at some point, hopefully soon, maybe next week, with the village manager and see, kind of lay out the information that we have, some ideas and some options that have come up through research with treatment and things like that. So Heather, I'll be in touch and we'll see what we can set up for that, because it turns out that a lot of trees are being infested right now. It's kind of ripping through Ridgewood. And if it's, some of the trees could probably still be saved. And these things will have to be discussed because this is going on now. It's not something that's happening in the future. So a bit of unfortunate news, but hopefully there's time to address saving at least some of these trees if it's at all possible. So that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Seaton. So I have a couple of things. I actually have a lot of things, so sorry. The first thing before we actually begin on the whole report is that the New Jersey Economic Development Authority announced today the launch of dates for $85 million Phase 4 of the Small Business Emergency Assisting Grant Fund. We circulated this today to the Ridgewood Guild and to the Chamber of Commerce and to village staff, and I don't believe I sent it to Councilman Perrin, but I think we'll just forward it to everyone. It's important because the dates, pre-registration dates are very tight. Pre-registration will begin on Monday, April 19th at 9 a.m. So it's really important that we get the word out and get our small business that have been impacted by COVID-19 to pre-register, to get their ducks in a row, and to apply for any assistance they can. So Pam, I don't think I added you to that list and I meant to, so apologies, and I'll make sure you get that. I'll make sure everybody gets it. The 4th of July committee did meet with village officials to discuss a modified 4th of July parade as possibly as a vehicle only parade or possibly with limited walking. Doing so would be a great community morale booster, adding some semblance of normalcy after a difficult and unpredictable year for everyone. Ideas also included a shorter route to include twirlers, Ridgewood marching bands, they've been practicing, school floats, Grand Marshal, presently top secret, but we're excited about the potential. All of these opportunities would be capable of following safety guidelines. So we're going to take a closer look at this, come up with a plan. And as the committee prepares a more concrete plan, we'll be meeting with the village to establish whether or not doable. Ultimately, the idea is to plan and be prepared so that it's easier to be planned and have a plan in place. And if there's an increase in COVID numbers, we can, decide at that point, as opposed to not having anything ready and then finding out we were all in the clear and we could have had a parade. So it would be something smaller. And this will really give a great opportunity for Councilwoman Perrin and Councilwoman Reynolds to participate because they didn't have the opportunity to do so last year. So that would be exciting to have them participate in one of Ridgewood's favorite traditions. Let's see, this past Friday, Congressman Gottheimer did host a community meeting for mayors to bring everyone up to date on current federal programs and grant opportunities. The congressman and his staff were incredibly thorough. At the time, a review of the provided materials indicated an important grant opportunity for Ridgewood water infrastructure upgrades relative to PFAS. Despite the late hour Friday afternoon, coupled with the application deadline of this coming Friday, Ridgewood Village Manager Heather Mayland, Ridgewood Water Department Director Rich Calby sprang into action very quickly to organize everything to get our application prepared. I'm also going to take the opportunity to thank Councilwoman Perrin, who was very quick to offer her assistance. It turned out we were looking for letters of community support. I think we could still use those from our environmental committees. I think it's a benefit to add that to the mix. And also we want to thank local elected officials for their support, including mayors and council members from Wyckoff, Midland Park, Glen Rock, Ridgewood Board of Education members, Commissioner Ramon Hache, Bergen County elected officials, and all others who helped. And actually our village council colleagues are also, I believe, welcome to submit their letters individually as opposed to the resolution that we're adopting. So we appreciate everyone's support in helping us submit a grant application that definitely will reflect a robust community support. And thank you as always to Congressman Gottheimer for his tireless efforts on behalf of his constituents. Early Saturday, the Northwest Bergen mayors met to discuss current issues common to all of our communities. Biggest concern appears to be the confusion over school reopening and the conflicts and the desire for consistent, safe, in-person learning opportunities for all county students. Ridgewood is a little bit different because we do have our own municipal health department. We're fortunate to have that. Commissioner Hache did join the meeting, fielded some of the questions specific to county issues. Commissioner Hache also shared information about a wide variety of programs and opportunities available through the county, including but not limited to the Clean Community Litter Cleanup Program, the American Dream Home Ownership Program, home improvements plan based on income levels, among others. So they're kind of all scattered all over the Bergen County website, but we encourage everyone to visit the Bergen County website and take a look at the programs. A little bit hard to navigate because there's a ton of stuff there. Tuesday morning at 7:30, a little bit early for me, the Bergen County League of Municipalities met. Mayors also discussed several topics, including the League Convention, which will likely be live in person following all CDC guidelines with additional strategies to ensure a safe convention. The State Department of Health guidelines for school openings. Important marijuana legislation timelines for opt-out ordinance being adopted prior to legislation will be void. There's a specified timeline to act. Otherwise, if we don't act, our municipalities will automatically be opted in to the sales, cultivation, and I guess production of pot. I know we're all working. I know we are working on this. If the opt-out deadline is missed, you are automatically opted in and committed for 5 years. If you opt out, you can always opt back in. Federal COVID relief payments for municipalities with populations under $50,000 will be sent directly to the state. The state will then have 30 days to distribute, half in 2021 and the other half in 2022. Our New Jersey representatives continue to work to restore SALT deductions. The Problem Solver Caucus, which I think includes Congressman Pascrell and definitely Congressman Gottheimer, working on strategies to help. The last two issues, all municipalities are reporting being overwhelmed with OPA requests, resulting in significant loss of taxpayer-funded staff productivity. Senator Corrado is setting up a commission to review current OPA guidelines. And finally, the Bergen League of Municipalities would like to see COA restored. Community Access Network will meet tomorrow night, 7:30 via Zoom. And finally, on my list, the Stop Asian Hate Rally held this past Saturday in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square was a huge success. Organizers did an amazing job bringing much needed awareness to the issue of hate crimes against Asians and other minorities. It was especially painful to hear the perspective of students who are often the victims of both subtle and overt racial comments. So we all have to work together to do better, be inclusive and welcoming, and stand up and protect our most vulnerable. So thank you to the Ridgewood Chinese American Association, all the organizers, Village of Ridgewood staff for their support, the Ridgewood Police Department for their thoughtfulness and professionalism, and to our amazing Ridgewood community for attending and supporting our Ridgewood Asian community. We're all friends, we're neighbors, and we're in this together. Let's hope to stop Asian hate and all hate. And I'm going to give a shout out to Deputy Mayor Seaton and Councilwoman Perrin, who were there to show support, and they were incredibly supportive of me too. So we really appreciate that everyone leaned in, and it was a terrific, wonderful event. So that's my report, and now we'll move on to our meeting. Okay. I move the clerk read ordinance. Oh, right. Okay. We're on ordinances, right?
Yes.
I move the clerk read ordinance 3850 by title on second reading of the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds. You're unmute.
Sorry, yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3850?
And calendar year 2021, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 48:4-45.14.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. Dylan?
I'm showing no hands raised.
Okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
I move that ordinance 3850 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. We're going on to our 2021 budget hearing. Heather?
Yes, we have an overview of the 2021 budget, and then the council's comments, and then the public hearing on the budget. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Rooney, our Chief Financial Officer. And we also have Bud Jones here, who is our auditor. And also we have all the department directors who are here in case during the hearing, we do have questions for various departments. They're here to answer questions.
Okay.
Okay, so can you see that, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, great. First, I want to thank all the village council members, Heather, department heads, my treasurer, Steve Sanzari, my finance staff, Beth Spinato, who is always there to help me through the administrative part of this budget preparation, and my auditor, Bud Jones, or the village auditor. Their contributions and their input was greatly appreciated during this whole process. So the budget, as was introduced several weeks ago, will require an amendment. The amendment is the result of local government's review the timetable on processing some of the administrative pieces that relate to the issuance of short-term debt to fund the emergency from last year. So I'm speaking on behalf now of what the impact of this proposed amendment would do to an adopted budget. So we're going to have the hearing tonight, then we're going to close the hearing and wait until we complete these administrative tasks and hear back from local government with their blessing before we present the amendment and then have the hearing on the amendment. So the operating budget is still approximately $52.9 million. General capital budget as introduced by council is $8 million. The amendment will generate a 4.3% municipal tax increase, which is approximately $16 of the monthly increase on the average assessed home in the village. I'm proposing no municipal open space tax levy for 2021, which will result in a $35 annual tax reduction to the homeowner. Our debt is the same as when we introduced, and the revenue and expenses are up approximately 3.6% from the prior year. The tax increase is a result of the 2020 revenue shortfalls that we experienced as a result of COVID. Years of a modest or no tax increase, 2 years of 0, 2 years of 0.99, 4 years ranging from 1.2 to 2.2, finally catch up to you at some point in time. And this is the accumulation of revenues and appropriations that are the shortfall in revenue and the increase in appropriations that are driving the tax rate. The municipal tax rate increase as a result of using a 3-year average. So the state allowed us to use an average rather than based upon prior year's actual, which was substantially helpful to us in putting this budget together and minimizing what could be substantial, much higher tax increases on the municipal side. Heather?
Yes, our 2021 goals. We're going to continue to navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic in the best way possible while keeping both village staff and village residents safe. We'll continue to hold COVID-19 vaccine clinics as long as we get vaccines locally for Ridgewood residents. It's worked out very well. Our health department and public health nurses do a great job in running those clinics. Determining the best way to reallocate parking spaces throughout the central business district, given less people commuting to New York City or other places and less people venturing out into the world. Also determining a way to continue an event in the central business district on weekends to assist restaurants and retail businesses and services as well. We want to increase Wi-Fi coverage in the central business district, award a contract for $2 million in paving projects for village streets, plant another $110,000 worth of new trees throughout the village, continue the interior work on the Zabriskie Shedler house, continue the work on the Shedler property, open Graydon Pool, and determine a way to hold a modified summer day camp, continue the work at Kings Pond Park. With our water department, we're going to launch the Water Smart portal for customers of Ridgewood Water. It will have aspects to many things in their account, including water usage, payment of bills, and other important information. Ridgewood Water will continue to pursue PFAS treatment facilities in various locations throughout the utility. We want to encourage other public water utilities to join Ridgewood Water in coordinating efforts for recovery of PFAS expenses. We begin construction on the new Ridgewood Water headquarters, which is the former Elks Club property. Establish rules and regulations for the Glen pickleball courts, which we've done, but we may have to modify them. We'll wait and see. This way, both the pickleball players and the surrounding neighbors will have some days and times when they can play or have some quiet times. We want to replace the aging underground storage tanks for the gasoline pumps at the Village Central Garage to prevent a gasoline leak in the future. We began a food waste disposal pilot program. We're collecting data from the participants, and we're determining from that data what the reduction of tonnage is in the solid waste stream. We may consider expanding the program to additional residents later in the year. We will be negotiating the blue and white collar union contracts this year. We have hired, we're training a vulnerable population outreach coordinator. This is being paid for through a grant, and it's to identify village residents who are in need of assistance. And we're going to evaluate existing village services to determine if there are more cost-efficient ways of providing these services to village residents. Okay.
So we are faced with many challenges as we move forward with this budget process. Managing the effects of COVID-19 on revenues is going to be very difficult to do. We are, looking for different ways to try and enhance that process, but it will definitely be a challenge for the year. As Heather mentioned, we have blue and white collar union contracts coming up that we have to negotiate. We still have to be cognizant of a defense for tax appeals as they arise. So in this economy, yes, the cost of property is going up and the valuations are going up, but we always have to be cognizant of large tax appeals that may be filed. The state still has influence on some of the fees that we anticipate, such as building and municipal court. So unless something changes there, we will be limited as to what we can anticipate in those areas. Police overtime is always an issue. We have to be cognizant of, when the needs arise for different scenarios that may present themselves during the course of the year. But so far, in the past couple of years, we've been very fortunate to be able to control that, but it's still something we have to keep an eye on. We have an infrastructure that is changing every year. We try to maintain it, and it will be a challenge to make sure that we keep things stabilized to be able to provide services. And the thing that always pops up every year are one-time revenues. We've been fortunate to have reserves and things of that nature where we can balance our budget, but they're not guaranteed, and we just have to be cognizant on those moving forward. Our water department is challenged by weather conditions. It could impact the amount of water available for sale. So that is always a concern. Infrastructure too, the water mains and the ability to move water is also something that we have to be cognizant of. And of course, the EPA water quality regulations are something that have surfaced and we are dealing with timely. And last but not least is parking, where we are impacted by COVID on the commuting back and forth to the city. Hopefully the summer we'll start to see some movement and improvement in those areas. There are opportunities. We have new ratables due to developments that we should see a benefit of in the end of this year and into next year. And of course, our technology platform, without such, we would not be able to maintain the services we provide to our citizens today. The next chart shows the revenues and the support that we have for the budget. Property taxes are approximately 67.3% of where our revenues come from, with local revenues being approximately 7%. This chart shows our municipal expenditures, public safety being the largest at 26% of our total budget. And if you add up all the fixed costs, they approximately 37% of what's in our budget this year. So moving forward, this is a comparison of what the effect of an amendment would be on the budget as originally presented. Total appropriations will be $52.8 million. Surplus will stay the same at $4 million. Miscellaneous revenues are now $10,361,000. Delinquent taxes stay the same, and the amount to be raised by taxation have declined. So this results in a $4,544 tax on an average assessed value home, and that's roughly 186 over the prior year. Next slide shows the amendment itself. So as you move down on the revenues, you'll see that we had changes that we had to make as a result of the 3-year average change. Initially, the support or the guidance said we could use 17, 18, and 19. Upon further clarification, of course, after we introduced the budget, we were told it had to be 18, 19, and 20. So that resulted in local revenues, a decrease of $228,000. In the Uniform Construction Code, $79,000. However, we are allowed to use CARES funds, which we have been reimbursed for expenses from the county of $227,000. So the net change in the revenue is $79,000. And you'll see on the next slide, my proposed budget reductions in appropriations will affect the total budget in approximately down to $52,868,000. So in the appropriations as introduced, these categories we took another look at as to potential reductions. We looked at legal expenses. We can bring them down $30,000. Police salaries and wages, half year instead of a full year appropriation for a new officer is $18,000. Other expenses we compared to prior years' actuals and determined that we could probably trim another $15,000. Fire salaries and wages, again, 2 new firefighters starting mid-year or half-year reduction. We looked at central garage recycling and yard waste recycling, compare their actual to the prior years and reduce them accordingly. We looked at the utility expenses, which is spelt wrong, and I just noticed, and compared what we had spent over the prior 3 years and feel that $50,000 reduction would be appropriate. The building department, we have a change in director, so there'll be a savings there. Salary negotiating costs, we felt that we could have, we have some money in the trust that we could move around. And the library, we felt that we could ask for a $10,000 reduction, which is similar to what we did about 3 years ago, to sort of spread this reduction across the various departments. In the parking utility budget, again, using that 3-year average concept, we were required to reduce our anticipation by $58,000, which results in our using another $58,000 of surplus. And we were also required, because of the timing on one of the note payments that we have to provide for, would be $10,000 in the budget. We had more than enough money in our interest on notes as introduced, so we're just moving the 10 from one to the other. And lastly, the thing that everybody waits for every year is the comparison of the tax dollar. You'll see the village and the library are approximately 24% of the total, school being 64.8, and the county approximately 11.2. I anticipated a county increase of 2% this year and the school at 1.99. So that being said, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain. And I'll close this down.
Okay, that's helpful.
There we go. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. And let's start with questions. Anyone? Oh, go ahead, Bernadette.
Yeah, so thanks, Bob. That was a great overview. Cleared up a couple of questions for me, but I also have a couple other questions. Oh, and should we go back to, or I guess we could just talk about the presentation, or, oh, yeah, I guess it'll be easier.
Whatever you want.
So we have had a resident call in questioning the hiring of the two new firefighters. And I did notice on this grid that you just gave us that you said it's a half-year cost, which appears to be only the half-year salary cost. So can you just comment on the other expenses that would be incurred if we were to hire those two firefighters?
So the half year obviously represents July 1 coming on board, because our initial budget, we appropriated the full amount for both. The ancillary costs related to pension or things of that nature will not be felt until the subsequent year. There's no pension adjustments in the current year for any people that come on board. So the impact of that, we will not know until subsequent year. I did not take into consideration any potential stipends that they may be paid. I won't speak for Jim Van Gore, but I'm not sure how much participation they would provide as new firefighters in the first year, but Jim can certainly answer that better than I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we ask Van Gore?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Bernadette.
Yeah, no. So can we Can we pull Chief Angora?
You there?
Bringing him in.
Okay.
Jimmy, there, you can unmute and turn on your camera. There you go.
Okay, I'm here.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. So the first year, depending on when they can get into class in school, EMT class is like a 2-month class. So they probably wouldn't get a stipend the first year or first half a year.
Okay.
It would be the following year, which is about, I think the first year is 1,600.
I think you're right.
And then in terms of the benefits, are they allocated in this half year?
That would be up to Bob, but the benefits, I think that the rule of thumb, I was always told is 30% of the salary.
Right. That's what we use. And I can't answer your question because it depends on when all the paperwork gets done, when they're effective employees into the pension system, there's a time delay. So it's possible that we may get a portion of it next year. I can't answer that until I get the paperwork back from the state.
But it's nowhere near 200,000 for 2 people.
No.
Not even close.
No, so I mean, I just used my computer or my calculator, and so the number, if you just added the 30% on for the half year for the both of them, the number would come out to be 46,800 total.
Right.
36.
Yeah.
So it'd be an extra 10,000 and change. So I mean, I think if we're comparing apples to apples, we probably should add that in, because the question, I believe, is going to come up again and again. So if we are going to indeed be offering benefits to these individuals, then we should probably make sure that it's added to the budget, or that it's included in the budget, even if it's on a half year.
They would only be utilized for, half the time as the EMT on the ambulance. The other half would be as a fireman. So it's not, their total salary wouldn't go towards replacing the EMT.
No, but we're going to pay, if they're an employee, they're going to get health benefits.
Right.
Right. So we will have that cost unless they choose to not accept our benefits, but we have to assume they are going to accept our benefits. So I think we should add that cost in, because we can't assume they're going to decline them. Right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're looking for fully loaded cost for an individual is what you're trying to do.
I mean, I think if the anticipation is hiring 2 people with benefits, even if it's a half year, we have to account for we can't assume they're going to decline them. We have to add the cost in. We have to be mindful that we could pay the cost. The stipend, it sounds like, it's not going to be charged to 2022. So we don't have to add that in for 2021, but definitely we have to add health benefits and
the pension will not be charged to 2021 either.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we should add them in.
Anyone
That's
else?
the question I had on the stuff that was presented. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd kind of like to bring up the open space question. I agree, for $35 a year, I don't think we should take it out. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm concerned that we would miss an opportunity to gain open space and some developer will rush in and take it.
So yeah, let me just kind of I'm going to ask first 2 questions. I know Bud Jones is there, right? Hello, Bud Jones. How are you? Good seeing you. So the first thing is, my understanding, and the reason this kind of came up was because there was a comment about being alarmed at the tax increase, and there was a lot of social media activity, but some of the information was grossly inaccurate. But nonetheless, there was a comment, and it occurred to me that if there was concerns because of COVID and a tax increase, that this was an opportunity to offset that by suspending just for 1 year. My understanding is does not impede our ability at all to apply anywhere, because our open space tax is just subsidizing what we're also eligible for, regardless of whether we're collecting it or not. Personally, I think I'm fine with continuing with the open space tax and not suspending it. But I think it's just important to understand the nexus of how it came about. And I guess maybe somebody can answer the question that does not impact our ability to apply for county or state funds, correct? Bud's shaking his head, but we can't hear you.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it doesn't hurt us at all. So the question for the council is, if there's at all a concern over, that the tax increase, which I don't, with the $16 a month, but I can't speak to other people's budgets. Obviously, we can only speak for ourselves. But if there's a mechanism in place that suspends the open space tax for a half year, a year, or something that offsets it, I'm not personally not committed to it either way. I would have just sent my $35 in and put it to the open space. So you always have the option to send more money in to support, to pay taxes. You can pay more than you're being taxed. So I would have just sent a check in of $35 for my open space piece for this year. Everyone's welcome to do so, but it's just a mechanism to allow us to offset. It doesn't impact anything else.
Yeah, I'd be fine with suspending it for 1 year. I mean, we're not getting rid of it. Like some of the comments, I don't know if it was just the way they were saying them or if there was any kind of misunderstanding, but it sounded like we were getting rid of the open space tax and it would be gone. But it's been an extraordinary year. Taxes are going up more than any year I've been on council. And any mechanism that we could use to try and offset some of the increases as best we can because of the extraordinary year. Like under normal circumstances, this wouldn't even be a consideration. But given our current situation, I'm still in favor of just a 1 year suspension of the open space tax, just so we don't have to increase taxes more than, because I think what the increase is 4.3%. And if we add back the open space tax, it goes up to what? Anybody have any idea what the increase might be at that point?
The 4.3 is no matter what. I didn't adjust it for the open space.
So
tax.
the 4.3% comes down effectively, I guess, with the open space tax. It actually, Bob, must come down greater than the 1 full point. It must come down because of the percentage of the tax increase. It must come down probably about, and Bud, you can probably jump in on this too. It probably decreases. It probably offsets it by closer now to 1.3. Would that be a good guesstimate? Yeah, Bud, I can't, Bud, stop shaking your head. Speak up.
Shake it louder,
I think I
Bud.
just did a quick calculation in my brain based on what we are showing as that bottom line number and the percentage. So it would appear to me that the open space tax increase, originally when we discussed it, we were at a 0.9 or 1, but based on the decrease from the 4.9 to the 4.3, that open space tax actually decreases no longer by 1 full percentage point, is probably closer to 1.3 or 1. It could even go to 1.4. So
You're
now
right.
we're no longer at even 4.3%. We're actually bringing us down for this year. The offset brings us down to about a 3%, 2.9.
Okay, that's what I would be in favor of just for this year. Again, it's just a suspension for this year. We're not getting rid of the open space tax. It's been a tough year for everybody. And, if it's a difference of between 4.3 or 3%, then I would still be in favor of suspending the open space tax for this year.
And again, it's interesting because I think there was an email from a resident that made exactly that statement that the deputy mayor just repeated, that we're getting rid of the open space tax. We're not getting rid of anything. We're suspending it for 1 year. We have the option to suspend it. Since we picked up another 0.3 or 0.4 percentage, we could always split it and do it for half the year. And then we'll just divide that, or, suspend it or continue with it. But again, anybody who's interested, and we certainly can put that out into the world, is more than welcome to send in their $35, or actually you could send even more if you want. If you're interested in open space, we always accept that.
There's still a possibility we could get the federal funding in time, or no?
I wish I could tell you yes. The state, it's in the state's hands right now as to how it's going to be treated and how it's going to be dispersed. Bud, I'm not putting Bud on the line, but he may know from other communities whether they've heard anything or not, but I am not aware of any guidance that's been given out that tells us how we can use that money or when it will be available.
That's correct, Bob. There haven't been any guidelines that I've seen yet from Treasury regarding use of these funds. I do know that Treasury had 60 days to get the funds to the states. The states had another 30 days, I believe, to get the funds to the towns, and could apply for an extension.
So when is our like drop dead date that we have to, approve this?
If that timing is correct, I'm not saying it's not, there was a little caveat in there though, it would be June sometime. However, as Bud indicated, they can apply for an extension. So we never know how that's going to play out. But right now it would be June.
Okay.
But so Bob, or maybe Bud, so if, how is that money then going to translate into our rate? Is the rate going to continue to be charged and then there'd be a credit next year? How do we suddenly, the amount that we're thinking, how do we suddenly get this money in? We have to use it obviously on the COVID impacted costs as is going to be, I guess, delineated in the funding. But then next year, we'll essentially have a surplus. So what's going to happen? Like, how does that money, because obviously we have it's hurting us this year. So if we apply it, then we're going to be over collecting taxes, I guess. I'm just trying to figure out how it's all going to.
Well, until we know how we can use the funds, it's pretty nebulous right now. We understand that it can be used for infrastructure. And it can also be used for loss of revenue. And we're not sure how that's going to work. We really are looking for the guidelines from Treasury to tell us how all this is supposed to be. And it's a brand new program. So there could be some false starts with it also, similar to what we saw with the PPP program last year.
Yeah, because I would imagine, at least for myself, I would want it to go to our lost revenue, parking utility, not being able to do inspections on homes or delayed inspections over that, the things where we actually I would want it to go for what it's intended for, but then we're essentially going to be in a surplus situation based on the budget that we're, looking at right now. So
keep in mind that, yes, we will probably get that money and be able to offset our losses. So we already have $1 million emergency because of these losses. So that would have to be paid first. Again, I don't have no guidance. I'm just throwing this out.
Yeah.
That would have to be paid first. And then as you move into 2022, you may still have revenue shortfalls that you can use this money to supplement that. But without guidance, we don't know where this is going, other than the fact it's supposed to create relief. We just don't know when.
Okay.
So I just have one question as it relates back to that open space tax. If we choose to suspend it, what is that a resolution to suspend? Is that, well, that is just for the year? Is that procedurally how we would approach?
Yes, you would set the tax rate at 0 for the year.
So, but by way of resolution?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay. And yeah, okay, I'm good. Anyone else?
But so what is the rate if the open space is, what did you say it was, 3.9, 3.8?
No, it goes from 4, it was originally a full percentage.
4.3.
The offset was originally a full percentage point. So we go from 4.3, right, Bob? Down to, we'll take it down, but because of the difference, we now go greater than 1.4. But can anybody kind of weigh in on that a little bit more accurately than my quick math? I'm going to call it rough at 1.3 offset.
So that the tax rate would be 3% this year.
Combined.
Combined, right?
Combined, 3% combined. Okay.
So in that, I would be good with that, but I think that's not something we have to do right this minute. So
Yeah.
I think we're focused on this. So are we good with comments, everyone? So before we close the village council comments, I just want to say, I know there was a suggestion earlier that our budget process is not transparent. I think for Councilwoman Walsh, Deputy Mayor Seat, and myself, I believe for the years that we've been doing this, that we are an incredibly transparent budget process. We have so many meetings, we discuss it, every little detail, and the public is always welcome to join into those meetings. They're advertised and we get a ton of feedback. So I think we're really transparent and we appreciate everyone's work on that. So thank you.
I would just say though, in fairness to the residents, in the past, we were on the dais and we had our books out and you know, you were sitting in with us in the meeting, and COVID has caused some challenges with this process. So as we're all kind of getting through the process, like even just a few minutes ago, you know, I needed to refer back to the document that was on the screen. So I guess for whatever, there was a resident who said that they were told the books are in the courtroom, but they're not allowed in there. Where do we have the budget books that residents can come look at, and where are they and how would they do that? I guess that's the question.
Bob answer that.
Okay.
So we have a binder. We provide the clerk the binder as well. If that's something that someone needs to look at, I'm sure it's public information. Certainly look at it. The state budget, state format is on the website, along with the user-friendly budget. So again, this is all consistent with how we've done it in the past.
Yeah. So I would
And
just.
I've actually sent the link to individuals that have asked for it because it's right on the website.
Yeah, so I would just say to residents, the book is there and put it, I
They
guess.
can come to Village Hall and they can call the number, and then someone from the clerk's office or the finance department can bring the budget book to our customer service window, or we can make an appointment for them to come into the building within a certain area, and they can review that if they wish to do so.
And I would say maybe they should just wear gloves if they're going to be flipping pages that everybody's going to be touching, maybe.
And obviously a mask.
And obviously a mask, but if they're going to be touching, maybe gloves.
We can provide gloves.
Thank you.
All right, we're good? We're all good? Okay, so we can do the public hearing, right? Moving
Yes.
on? Okay. Will the clerk please read the title of the 2021 budget?
Village of Ridgewood, New Jersey, 2021 municipal budget.
Okay. The public hearing on the 2021 budget is now open.
Right, the first person is Ms. Gruber. Please please unmute.
Could I just ask, what is the time limit?
I guess can we do,
5, 3?
I think let's do 3 minutes.
Okay.
Ellie Gruber,
Hi, Ellie.
229 South Irving. You know, we have an application out to the state for $500,000. If anything jeopardizes that, anything, suspension of the tax for 1 year, we could lose $500,000. I mean, I don't want to say one thing is more important than the other, but look at what percentage other areas of this town take. And sending $35 in is not going to satisfy the government, Susan, because they want to know, Mayor, I'm sorry, is they want to know if we have a tax or not, because that's the basis that they're going to give the grant. If I send them $35, they're not going to care because they want to know that the town has issued the required tax to get the money from the grant. And as you said, Mr. Jones, you don't know when the money's going to be allocated from the county. All they need to know is that we dropped our tax and that they can go on to someone else. And if there's even a chance, the slightest chance that we could lose that money, I think it's not worth it. I mean, I understand you're bringing the percentage down. I understand the problems. I really do. I don't want to pay more. I'm a resident too. But there's, I mean, would somebody, if you took money away from the library, there'd be a riot in this town. Everybody wants a piece that they feel is more important. But there's a reason that we need the tax now. And to say you're suspending it for 1 year, next year you don't know what's going to happen. There could be another problem. You know, I'm just giving my 2 cents worth. I've been involved with open space since 2002 when this started. And believe me, there were people that didn't want the tax in the beginning who are very grateful now for the tax. And I just wish you would reconsider. You know, I'll accept whatever decision you make, but I think if there's a slightest chance that we could lose that state funding, I would not chance it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. And I think you worked very hard on the budget. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate everything. And the portion from the town that we pay on our taxes is small, and you've done a great job. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you.
All right, next person is Mr. Hallaby. Please unmute.
Go ahead. Go
Hi.
ahead, Allaby. Go ahead.
Hallaby 374 Evergreen Place. Do I understand that the open space tax is just optional? Is there no cost to deferring it? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Rick, maybe Bud Jones wants to, or Bob wants to respond. That's a question, right?
It is a question. Is
Okay, so can somebody just respond to Mr. Hallaby's question, whether or not the open space tax is optional?
And is there no cost to deferring it?
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bob or Bud?
I'm not aware of any cost related to deferring the tax. It's a tax, so there's no cost associated with it. And I'll defer to the attorney regarding the establishment of the open space trust and the wording of the referendum that established it.
Yeah, I can respond from what I know about the referendum, which was done at a different time before I was here, but at the same time, the option to suspend is one that is permitted for the towns for purposes such as this. And to the best that, I mean, it's certainly something we can look into, but as far as I know, there is no cost to the actual financial costs. You don't have to pay to exercise the option, and you don't get penalized for it, other than possibly having impact on some of the things that Ms. Gruber was talking about and other things like that.
I was at a training last week for the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, and they did mention that if you suspend your open space tax, that you risk being ineligible for grants.
Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Hallaby. Did you have any other questions? Go
ahead. Has any work been done on cutting costs? For instance, we keep on hearing about services, sharing services with other towns. I mean, over a 2-mile length between the Glen Rock Police Department, the Ridgewood Police Department, Hohook is the police department. Could we get these 3 police departments working together, and thus we can lay off 2 or 3 policemen? I hate to do it. I love Jackie Luthke, believe me, and I love the protection they offer me. I'm 100% behind the police. At some point, did someone do the hard, sharpen the pencil? How can we cut costs? I don't think they have. Lastly, my other question is, as far as transparency, I'm not saying this just to be mean. For the thing to be transparent, it has to be a one-on-one it has to be at the discussion. You have to be prepared with information. I try to soak in as much of what Bob has presented, but there's a limit to what you can take. And the idea of showing up at Village Hall to look at the binder, it doesn't work this way. We need to have a town hall where Bob stands there and goes through it and allows people to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with questions. Now, I know Bob is busy, but I also know Bob is one great CFO. He's a very smart guy, and I would love to be able to have people debate him. How come this and how come that? I mean, the 3-year average, what does it mean? Is it like a manna from heaven? So there are so many things. So this is why I'm saying it is not transparent. So anyway, going back to my point of cutting costs, what has been done to cut costs?
So let me just ask a quick question. Do you want an explanation about the 3-year average?
That's among other things, yes.
Okay, so Bob, why don't you just explain to Mr. Hallaby the 3-year average?
Sure. So by law, we're only allowed to anticipate revenue to the amount that we collected in the prior year. So as an example, municipal fines and costs in 2019 or 2020, let's say we collected $500,000. I'm only allowed to anticipate $500,000 in this year. However, if last year I anticipated $1.2 million in municipal fines and costs, that's what my budget was predicated on, and I only collected $500,000, I'm short $700,000. So as a result of COVID, we had many, probably about 12 revenue streams that were affected, that reduced the amount of collections that we had, and therefore impacted what I could anticipate this year. If we went by what we collected last year, you'd probably be looking at a 10 or 12% tax increase as a result, because you wouldn't be able to anticipate that revenue. So the state then came out with a guideline, sort of a relief that said, we'll allow municipalities to go back and look at the last 3 years of collections, take the average, and that's what you can anticipate in your budget. So with that being said, we still have that 4% increase, but it's not 10. So it was a blessing from the state to allow us to do that. So that may continue next year, have no idea, but it was something that helped give the taxpayer relief for this year.
So, and then, Mr. Halby, I'm going to answer your question about shared services. It's certainly something that we can raise with the other mayors and mayor meetings. And I'm certain that the village manager is always looking for opportunities for shared services. I think one of the things that is experienced by some municipalities is that, certain municipalities are inevitably shouldering a greater part of the burden. And in this instance, that typically would be a municipality like Ridgewood. So we tread lightly with that. So we make certain we get the best deal for our taxpayers. But we're certainly going to continue to look for opportunities. And did you have any other questions? Warwick?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are you good?
No, I'm not good, but that's it for now. Thank you. I'll leave it for someone else to ask. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Have a good evening.
All right. Next person is Scarpa. Please unmute.
All right, Linda, name and address again for the record.
Okay, Scarpa, 569 Northern Parkway, Ridgewood, New Jersey. I looked at your budget, and I'm quite familiar with budgets because I used to run my own department. First of all, I want to say something, and because I heard the fire chief said he doesn't think my number is correct, and I'm going to say for the record, oh yes, my number is correct. I opened those numbers of what the fire declaration is and the salary, so my numbers are on point. 2 firemen cost $180,728, and that includes the bennies, okay? That doesn't include overtime or anything else that will impend when the 9 EMT that would be defunded leave. And yes, they will leave, and they will pull the volunteers with them, and you're not going to have a department, and you're going to wonder who's going to help the police and fire, and you're going to add a tremendous amount of stress to the taxpayers that I have spoken to who are 100% not in favor of this plan. It's a bad plan. I listened to that YouTube over and over. I didn't hear any proposals of numbers and labor studies that indicated this is a good idea. I strongly encourage you to take out that salient part of defunding the EMT and do a labor study to see if in fact this type of plan would provide the safety and the network, the safety network of police and fire and EMT to work together as they always have. In addition to that, I'm very concerned if the EMT, the part-timers are defunded, what do you think is going to happen to the EMT services program with the high school and all the community outreach they've done for 4 decades? That's going to vanish. We're not going to have that because the fire department, let's face it, they don't have time to do that. They have to fight fires, and now they're going to be picking up day calls. It's just not possible. I just think that it would be best for all of us to take a breath and say, let's do a study. Let's do a survey of what the village feels comfortable with during a pandemic and make a logical choice. And by all means, give it to the taxpayers and say, this is what we're thinking. This is what will serve the community. This is what will serve in taxes. This is our labor study. This is why we think this is a good idea or not, or this is how we're going to modify it. But by all means, I think we need to take a breath. This is just too important to change this right now. I don't even know what more to say. I mean, I've thrown out specific numbers. I've talked to many people. I mean, some of you even know me. I'm very active in the community, charity. I know many people. I talk to them just as an average taxpayer, and right away I get, why are they doing that? We don't want that. The EMT helped my mother. They helped my grandmother.
Okay, I'm sorry, Linda.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, all right, great. So, Dylan, anyone else? Good evening, name and address. Unmute, there we go.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I've got some specific questions regarding the open space tax. I've heard a lot of numbers being thrown around tonight. I'm confused. On the average house, Mr. Rooney, what would be the open space tax for a tax year total?
$35.
$35 for an entire year?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So based upon collecting $35 from every household or every taxable property in Ridgewood for an entire year, what would the total amount be that we would collect, that we would put in the open space fund if the tax were not suspended?
I'm going to say it's roughly $350,000.
What is the downside to not having that $350,000 on hand?
If there was property that we want to acquire, that would require money coming out of open space. We may not be able to do it this year. However, and Bud, you can correct me, I think you always have the ability to fund acquisition, even though you don't have the open space money. You can still issue debt, or you can fund it from other sources to make that acquisition. And later on, if you get the funds, you can correct it that way. But is that correct? Am I on board with that?
Yes, you could pass an ordinance to acquire property. If there were a grant that required a local match, you could pass an emergency to raise the local match within this year so that you could accept the grant. You would have a local share. The emergency would be raised in next year, in which case then you could reinstate the open space tax.
Okay, thank you. So again, if I'm understanding it correctly, this $350,000 that we would not collect would result in a tax decrease combined of over 1%?
An offset. Yes, correct, Boyd. It's an offset of over 1%. I think it calculates out to about 1.3%. So instead of a 4.3%, your 4.3% tax increase would be offset by the 1.3% open space impact on that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no more questions.
Thank you. Okay. Dylan, anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. Next is Siobhan Winograd. Please unmute.
Good evening. Go ahead, Siobhan, name and address for the record.
Hi, Siobhan Cram-Winograd, 274 Ivy Place. I wanted to say two things. So first of all, I want to thank everybody on the council who took the time to answer my questions. And, I want to say that this process has been frustrating, not budget frustrating, but COVID budget frustrating. And I very much have missed access to the binders. I think, as many of you know, in the budget meetings, you're able to see the detail. It makes the conversation much more synergistic. And I wish, and not in a criticism way, I had known that I could have gone in to see the binders. I think that would have been very helpful. I would have appreciated it. And, I'm very grateful to both Pam and Bernadette for answering so many of my questions. I know I ask a lot of them. And I think, as COVID continues, the more that you guys can make even deliberative documents somewhat accessible, that will decrease the frustration. I think people are really looking for more mimicking of the old school ways pre-COVID and the ability to see things that we just can't. So, my frustration with the budget is, one, COVID. I mean, who's not COVID frustrated? Let's be honest. And then two, I just really wanted to say, I mean, thank you very much to the council members who helped. And I'm sure thank you to Bob, because I'm sure they came to you and bothered you with my limitless amounts of questions. I want to be clear with my language here. I'm very, very, very concerned about the open space. I think it's a short-term bad idea, really bad idea, that really flies in direct conflict with all the information you've gotten on our master plan survey. You had a vote in 2001. There was an actual vote on the ballot, and I believe that resulted in an ordinance. So I'm a little concerned that, we're taking the will of the people and we're saying we're just going to, because it's been a tough year, get rid of it. I mean, open space thwarts development. It promotes trees. New Jersey's only getting hotter. These are serious things for our town and our state. And I think it's really a bad look for Ridgewood to say, look, we've taken. We bought Habernickel. We bought, Shedler, and now we're done with it and we're not going to pay our fair share. I'm also concerned about, I understand you're suspending it for a year, but I don't know how that works legally, because the vote resulted in an ordinance. And I don't know, I'd be interested if Matt could answer, doesn't that mean another ordinance needs to be passed? And then do you have to remember to come back next year? And then are we at the will of the council? And have we lost the favor of what the public wanted? So for me, I want to be exceptionally clear so my language doesn't, alarm people later. I think it's a very, very bad idea. I don't think it's worth it. And I think you should really consider not doing it. And then two, if you do it, like, how the heck is that going to happen, given the fact that the public affirmed it?
All right, so why don't we just let Matt answer that question as it relates to the resolution. If we so choose to, it would be by resolution for 1 year. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think it was answered. The question about the process, I think, was answered before by Bud Jones, is that it could be suspended for a year by resolution. I think if the council was to decide to go ahead to do that, then you can prepare a resolution that makes it for that 1 year term. And not that you would ever forget about something like that in terms of suspending it, but certainly in next year's budget, you would have to address the issues. And I don't know what necessarily would be the ramifications on next year's budget with regard to a suspension for a year, if there are any. But it certainly would be the conversation brought back in next year, because that resolution would only be good for the year. So I think legally, when you say it's a suspension, it's not, and you're getting rid of it for a year. You're just putting it aside for a year. You're not getting rid of it for a year. You're putting it aside for a year, not making the contribution. I wasn't aware of what Bud and Bob just talked about before, which is where you can appropriate under emergency appropriations a need if it arises during this year and bring it into next year's budget. But that certainly is another part of the process that that I'm not familiar with, but seems to be able to do it. So it's not as if it's going to get lost in translation. And, all of a sudden the village is without an open space tax after a year. I mean, the resolution is only for the budget year of 2021. And then 2022, it's there. I mean, it's as if it was never gone, but it's only suspended for 1 year. So that's my budget understanding of it, and certainly can be clarified.
Pat, could I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Kind of in reference to that question, but also in the question that Ellie Gruber asked about any existing application for grants that we have where we stated that we have an open space tax. Are we now in?
Well, that's what I said before. I said I'm not aware of a cost or a penalty, but it may have an impact on those, certainly would have an impact on those grant applications.
So
To what extent, I'm not sure, but maybe Bob can answer further.
I'd have to see the grant application to answer that intelligently. I'm not aware of a $500,000 grant, and I'd love to know more about it because I might be able to put in the budget and work things out. But I can't answer that question until I can see the application itself. But based upon my conversation with bond counsel, because after I talked to Bud about doing the resolution, I had mentioned it to them as well. They indicated there was no ramification for doing such. But again, if an application makes reference to it, I'd be happy to see it and address it.
So I'm pretty sure that the application does not make reference to that because it's an application to the New Jersey Historic Preservation Trust Fund. Historic preservation, it's a very specific application. It requires no funding through open space. It's a 100% matching grant on funds already spent on the Shedler House, this historic Shedler. So that, in fact, we're not required to match funds, any additional funds to it. So if we have whatever that number is that's already spent, the $500,000 can be attached and matched to that. So it costs no additional taxpayer dollars. It's really just the New Jersey Historic Trust Fund application for the grant fund is a win-win for Ridgewood taxpayers. It's an incredible win-win if we're so lucky as to be selected, which hopefully we will. We have lots and lots and lots of letters. So, all right, Dylan, anyone else?
Yes, we have one more.
Oh wait, was Siobhan still on?
Yes.
Yeah, can I say I have two more questions. Sorry. So
go ahead.
Okay. So the other concern I have with this is that you guys are speaking as if next year is going to be better. And I have concerns about that as well. So suspending it for 1 year, that next year we're going to be in a better position. And that's my concern about making it permanent. From what I can see, that the way people are living and the impact it's going to have on our budget is changing, particularly with respect to parking, because once the pandemic is over, we're not going to go right back.
Okay.
And I'm just concerned about that the fact that next year's budget's not looking better is going to impact this for another year.
Siobhan, if you have one last question.
That's it. That was my only question.
Okay. All right, great.
I mean, are you guys feeling good about next year's budget too?
I just want to respond one way that I think since it passed by referendum, to Siobhan's point or her question, I don't think we can by ordinance all of a sudden get rid of it. I think it has to go back to that process. So we're not taking away the process from that. As far as I know, procedurally, you can't get rid of it that way.
Yeah, and I think once again, and thanks, Siobhan, we're going to just take, so I think once again, this would be a suspension short-term for 1 year if we decide to take that approach. I think that I was aware that we could do an emergency appropriation if we needed to. So I was aware of that. And if we had something that popped up, but this particular year is unpredictable and unprecedented for many who are just really, under the financial, shouldering financial burden. So it's an option, nothing more, nothing less. Okay. Anyone else, Dylan?
Yes, we have a caller in, ending 4074. Please unmute.
Great. Name and address for the record, please.
Sherry Biskin, 178 McKinley Place.
Sherry.
And first of all, I want to register my complete agreement with the comments that Ellie Gruber made and also that the previous speaker made. I think it's a very bad idea and may be the start of a slippery slope to eliminate the open space tax. And it also sounds to me, and I mean this as inoffensively as possible, but it sounds to me as if none of you are quite utterly certain that it will not impact any previously allocated or future grant monies. And I don't see how you can make a decision on it until you're utterly certain that it will not have an impact. So I urge whoever is responsible for such things to be certain of its impact on any previous monies received or on any promised monies. Secondly, if we are looking at tax increases and we have touched such a tight budget, may I say that it is ludicrous to be wasting somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 a year on a monitor at the pickleball courts. It is absurd. It is something that was done to, I don't know, in some way accommodate a small group of neighbors. And if that's your answer, then I think all small groups of neighbors would like to have $10,000 or $25,000 for their neighborhood. The word has gone out. The Team Reach, that has over 240 members, knows that they are not to play at Ridgewood. They don't come to Ridgewood anymore. They go to other towns. It is utterly ludicrous to be wasting money on a monitor at those courts. I urge you to look at the data. And again, if you're going to give that kind of money to accommodate a small group of neighbors, then I think many small group of neighbors would like that kind of money for their area. I will close by saying I thank you much for your service. I have never paid attention to your meetings, and now that I have tremendous respect for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Just Heather, real quick, that pickleball monitor is actually, aren't they going from all the courts, checking all badges, and then doing other additional work? They're not just sitting at the pickleball.
Nancy Diggo should be here as well, so she could speak better.
Yeah, I think that we didn't have monitors just at the pickleball court.
No.
Anyone else, Dylan? Sorry.
That's it.
Okay.
I'd like to say something just before we move on. I wanted to point out that the Open Space Trust Fund is also used for maintaining our existing open spaces. For instance, it was used to pay for the turf at Maple Field. It was used to pay for hydrants at Habernickel. And so I think our existing open spaces could suffer if we suspend this year.
So my recollection of the turf funds is that we took the money from open space and then paid it back, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't, the funds for open space weren't used for the turf. We used that, but then when we had the funds sourced back, the money was restored to open space. But Heather's shaking her head, Mike, Pam and Bob, I think that's exactly what we did. It was kind of like loaning. We put it in the clear that we could do that, and we paid it back in once we had our funds available.
I'm not seeing that on the printout that I have from Bob.
Okay.
On the accounting that I have from Bob.
So we'll take a look into that, but I'm fairly, my memory serves, I believe that we borrowed the money from open space to pay for the turf because it couldn't be used to fund the turf. And it was paid back. And that was that, how much, what was that on your note there? Was it half?
I don't know that we've received the money back yet from the grant.
Oh, okay, fine.
The money from the grant, it's been paid back into open space.
Right.
Perhaps we haven't received that money back yet from the grant.
Yeah, because it was I forget when that was approved. We did the count. We went down to the county.
2018.
Yeah, except that the turf field was finished in what year? 2000.
I think it was either late 19 or 20. I remember we did the little ribbon cutting.
Yes. So that was my thought. And so I don't know if we put in all of the billing from the turf field to the county to get that reimbursement yet. That's all I'm saying. I don't know.
But I am correct that we didn't. Am I correct that we were not the money was not for the turf, was used from the open space, but it was being paid back when the funding from the grant was awarded. And the funding from the grant is intended to go back into the Open Space Trust Fund. So why don't we just make sure we figure that out? So anyone, anything? So I just wanted to point out once again, well, it's fine. Okay, we're good? Anyone, anything else? All right. So I move the public hearing on the 2021 budget be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Okay. All right, is Bud is he leaving now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was good seeing you. Thank you for all of your help, your assistance, and your good advice. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Bud.
Take care.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the directors, unless you have something specific on this agenda, you can leave it this time from the meeting. Thank you for attending. And I appreciate all that you did during this budget season to get us to this point, to be able to have the hearing on it and hopefully the amendment soon and adopt it.
Can I just ask one quick question? I forgot. Is Nancy going to just tell us what the monitors do?
Is she still there?
Is Nancy still there?
Nancy is here. I can bring her in real quick.
If you don't mind. And all the rest of the directors, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate all your hard work and your support and making this seamless budget season. Appreciate that. Nancy?
Just as to unmute and turn on her camera. You there, Nancy?
All right, we'll just get the information tomorrow from her and this way we're all comfortable that I believe that I understood the monitors were not just sitting at the pickleball courts all day. They were there for a variety of reasons and visiting all of our courts and checking badges and doing other stuff. So, okay, great. All right, so all of our directors can go home and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, we're on to the Ridgewood Water. Okay, good.
Yes.
I move the clerk read ordinance 3851 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3851?
A bond ordinance providing for various water utility improvements in and by the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $8,253,292 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $8,253,292 bonds or notes of the village to finance the cost thereof.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. Dylan?
Wait 1 second. My mouse is frozen. I have none.
Just wait a second. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
Move that ordinance 3851 be adopted on second reading and the final publication as required by law.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3852 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3852?
An ordinance to amend chapter 145 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood fees at section 145-6, enumeration of fees relating to code chapters.
Public hearing is now open. Dylan?
I am not showing any raised hands.
Okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3852 be adopted on second reading and final publication is required by law.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden. I'm sorry, it's Eden. I didn't hear. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Walsh, I got you. Walsh
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
We're going on to Ridgewood Water resolutions. The following resolutions, number 21-75 through 21-82, are to be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the village council. They will be read by title only. Award contract, software support, SCADA system. Title 59 approval, Passaic Valley Water Commission interconnection. Award contract, Passaic Valley Water Commission interconnection. Award contract under National Joint Powers Alliance, cooperative purchasing contract, various maintenance materials and supplies. Award professional services contract, consultant for Linwood Well, Green Acres diversion. Award professional services contract, PFAS treatment plant, Ravine Well site. Authorized change order, water main replacement, Jefferson Street and Salem Lane, and support application for funding for Ridgewood water improvement projects. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes. Back on to public hearings. I move the clerk read ordinance 3854 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden. Yes. Walsh
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3854?
A bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the village of Ridgewood in the county of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $6,430,325 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $6,108,808 bonds or notes of the village to finance part of the cost thereof.
Public hearing is now open. Okay, Dylan, anyone?
Giving them a second. I am showing none.
Very good. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3854 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3855 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3855?
A bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of a mini Kubota sweeper for the parking utility in and by the village of Ridgewood in the county of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $103,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $97,850 bonds or notes of the village to finance part of the cost thereof.
The public hearing is now open.
We have a person, bringing them in.
The mini Kubota.
Mr. or Mrs. Loving, please.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Hey.
Good evening again. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I must be honest with you and tell you all how disappointed I am that this was not something that was realized when the garage was built, that a sweeper, a special sweeper would be needed for the garage. And now $103,000 has come in. I will use my term is rather surprisingly to purchase a sweeper that's needed for the garage. I have a few questions about this I'd like to ask. And I guess my first question is, how come the person who constructed or designed the garage did not realize that there would be a special vehicle needed to clean the garage? How did we get in this position that a special vehicle was required to clean the garage that we did not have in our possession, and not until 8 months after the garage was open did we realize we didn't have this.
It's a, it's a good question, but the sweeper, this can be used elsewhere, Heather?
Yes, it's going to be used elsewhere in the central business district.
So while it's a, we certainly understand your concern as it relates to not knowing that the sweeper wouldn't have fit into the garage. It's certainly not exclusively for the garage. And so it serves other purposes.
Where is the sweeper going to be stored? And I ask that question only because I'm concerned that we're going to spend more money to construct a place to store it.
Okay, I think, where would it be stored? I'm not sure. Heather, do you know? If not, we can get back to Mr. Loving with that.
I'll get back to him so that I give an answer, that's accurate.
Okay,
You
but I don't
know
I'll go on the record
where it's going to be
as-
stored at this time? Is that the answer I'm hearing?
I'm saying I don't know. I'm not saying that the village doesn't know.
Okay.
My assumption is someplace, but I don't know if I'm correct. So I would prefer to give you an accurate answer.
Okay, again, I ask that only because I'm concerned that a little shed or something is going to need to be purchased or constructed to store this someplace, which would add additional cost. Now that we have been sort of surprised with the fact that we needed a special vehicle to sweep, I am concerned that the top floor of the garage was closed this year due to snowstorms when it snowed. Not a problem this year because we didn't need the parking spaces. However, once we need those spaces, my concern is somebody going to tell us at some point in time that, ooh, now we need a special vehicle to clear the snow off the roof of the garage because that floor can only handle a certain amount of weight. So is there some sort of discussion going on now as to how we're going to clean that roof of snow when the time comes that we need the roof for parking? Or are we going to be caught short at that point in time and realize that another special vehicle needs to be purchased?
I don't think so. I think that we successfully cleaned the roof of the garage this year without a problem. So the same would apply just like any other parking lot that would be cleared during a snowstorm. The lot just the same to the surface. The rooftop of the garage is no different than any surface lot that we have. That's how it would be.
So the signs that indicated that the roof was closed due to snow wasn't because the roof couldn't be cleared of snow. It was for some other reason.
Well, we didn't have, I don't think anyone was utilizing the spaces. Was that accurate?
Well, it was also the amount of snow we received. So that was part of it also. And so it took longer than a day. It took longer than a day to clear the snow out of the central business district because it was 2 days of snow and heavy snow. So that was why it was closed for a period of time while it was cleared.
Once again, my concern is that at a time when we need those spaces, which will hopefully be within the coming year or so, we need to make sure that we have the right equipment that can quickly clear the snow off the roof of the garage. And my concern is that we have not planned that out since we didn't plan out how we were going to clean the garage. So thus end my comments. Thank you very much.
Great questions, Lloyd. We appreciate it. Okay. Anyone else, Dylan?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Aaron,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3555 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
I think Pam misspoke on a number. I don't know if that's important.
3855.
3855?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Aaron,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Okay, Glenwood Road. I move the clerk read ordinance 3856 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second. So weren't you going to carry that?
That's at the end.
Oh, okay.
The hearing's been advertised for this evening.
Okay. Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Second.
Okay, yeah. So roll call, Perrin?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3856?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-54, Schedule 3, one-way streets.
Okay, the public hearing is now open.
Do you have somebody? Lovings, please unmute.
Hello?
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Hi again. I understand, if I understand what was said earlier in the meeting, you're going to be carrying this to the next meeting because the county is doing some investigation with respect to what effect this may have on county roads. My question is, didn't the state give you an ultimatum in terms of a date on which you had to enact a resolution or an ordinance to close the street? And if you did not do it, they were going to close the street permanently, or I'm sorry, they were not going to make a crossing there. So my concern is that, are you playing with fire here, and a delay in this may result in the state just saying, we're not going to make a railroad crossing there? Because they threatened you with that action. So what's your game plan if the state comes back and says you didn't act fast enough?
Okay. Thank you, Boyd. Heather, do we have the date that they said? Because I think we have still time on this.
I don't believe we had a specific date. They had to start, go back and, finalize everything and then go out for bid and then award the contract. So I don't know that we were given a date yet. However, we were trying to be proactive. However, I don't think we should delay it much more than, a month or so, because my concern is that, as Mr. Loving pointed out, their option is to close it completely.
And I did pull the documents today to make certain that we had a little bit of time to.
We do.
So our village attorney. So Boyd, great question. So we're pretty comfortable that we have a little wiggle room here to do a little more investigation. Boyd?
Okay, that was just my concern, because I know they threatened you with, if you didn't act fast enough, they were going to close it down. And I see you're going to delay it for another month. But if you feel as though you have enough time, I'll leave it with you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? I move the public hearing be continued to May 12th, 2021.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3857 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3857?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 258 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood Towing at Section 258-3 definitions, and at Section 258-5 application, and at Section 258-7 removal and storage of vehicle fees.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. Dylan?
I have none.
Okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Eden? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. Okay. Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3857 be adopted on second reading and final publication is required by law.
Second.
Perrin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes, I move the clerk read ordinance 3858 by title on second reading and the public hearing there will be open.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3858?
An ordinance to amend chapter 145, Code of the Village of Ridgewood fees, section 145-6, enumeration of fees relating to code chapters.
Public hearing is now open. Ellen,
I am showing none.
move the public hearing be closed.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move that ordinance 3858 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3859 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3859?
Bond ordinance of the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, providing for the cancellation of $725,000 of a funded debt authorization not needed for its original purpose, and to transfer such amount to the capital surplus fund balance.
I move the public hearing. Oh, what did I just do? What did I just do?
I don't know.
Public hearings, it's open.
Public hearing's open.
I know the public hearing is now open. I'm sorry. I just like must have hit my mouse and went crazy. Sorry, public. Public hearing is now open.
I am showing none.
Okay, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3859 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3834 by title on fifth reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Okay. Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3834?
An ordinance of the Village of Ridgewood authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with Ridgewood Senior Citizen Housing Corp., Inc. and Ridgecrest Urban Renewal LLP, granting a tax exemption for Ridgecrest Senior Citizen Housing.
The public hearing on ordinance 3834 was continued from January, February, and March public meetings so that additional information could be provided to the village council. This information has been received and the village council is ready to vote on ordinance 3834 this evening. The public hearing on ordinance 3834 is now continued. Dylan,
I am showing none.
we'll just give it a second. Anyone?
Nope. No.
I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3834 be adopted on fifth reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
The following resolutions, number 21-83 through 21-107, with the exception of resolution 21-86 and resolution number 21-104, which will be considered separately and read in full, are to be adopted by consent agenda with one vote by the village council. They will be read by title only. Award contract, disposal of ground, yard waste, and grass clippings. Award contract, Phase 2 of drainage work to address notice of violation from Bergen County drainage system at Fleet Garage. Title 59, approval plans for Franklin Avenue, North Maple Avenue corridor improvements. Title 59, approval irrigation system services for Parks and Recreation Department. Award contract irrigation system services for Parks and Recreation Department. Award contract under Bergen County Cooperative Purchasing Program by Bituminous Concrete plus various road repair materials. Award contract under state contract, unleaded gasoline and diesel and fuel. Unleaded gasoline, diesel fuel. Award contract under state contract tires. Award contract under state contract parts and services for fleet services. Award contract grading pool concession refreshment services. Award contract additional project closeout services, environmental technical support for the Hudson Street lot. Award additional award of contract Kings Pond Park Development Phase 2. Authorized shared services agreement, ADA Cooperative Curb Ramp Grant Program for the County Road Resurfacing Program. Authorized shared services agreement, County Road Resurfacing Program with Bergen County. Authorize execution of memorandum of understanding with Bergen County Department of Health Services, grants for various public health initiatives. Approve Eagle Scout project honoring Major Thomas B. McGuire. Endorse application for community development block grant, Care Plus New Jersey, air filtration upgrades at group home. Authorize execution of settlement agreement with New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Approve major soil permit, Hopper Condominium Association, Inc. Adopt revised social media policy. Approve changes to parking regulations in residential areas and in central business districts. Appoint member to Ridgewood Green Team and appoint member to Green Ridgewood Committee. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
Okay, so now I have resolution number 21-86. Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the preliminary plans consisting of 9 drawings for the Shedler Park berm construction boulder wall option prepared by the Village of Ridgewood Department of Public Works Engineering Division for the Bergen County Department of Planning and Engineering be and is hereby approved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood. This resolution is adopted pursuant to the authority of NJSA 59:4-6. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Kearney.
Councilman Walsh, thank you. Perrin,
My understanding is this is the response, these plans are the response to criticisms from SHPO, from the State Historic Preservation Office, and therefore I vote yes.
okay. Reynolds,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
Resolution number 21-104. Resolution authorizing the digital submission of a grant application by the Village of Ridgewood to the New Jersey Historic Trust Preserve New Jersey program for a 2021 grant for interior rehabilitation and barrier-free upgrades at the Zabriskie Shedler House owned by the Village of Ridgewood. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood Village is the owner of circa 1825 Zabriskie Shedler House located at 460 West Saddle River Road in the Village of Ridgewood. And whereas the village has been offered the opportunity to apply for a 2021 grant from the New Jersey Historic Trust Preserve New Jersey Grant Program. And whereas the village must make a digital submission of the grant application, which must be signed by an authorized representative of the village. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey as follows. 1, the village hereby authorizes the submission of a digital application to the New Jersey Historic Trust Preserve New Jersey Grant Program for a 2021 Capital Level 2 grant for the interior rehabilitation and barrier-free upgrades at the Zabriskie Shedler House. 2, the village hereby authorizes Mayor Susan Newton or her authorized designee for the application submission to sign the assurances. 3, the village will be requesting $499,166 through the grant application, and the village will match the requested amount of $499,167, utilizing match expended for the first phase of work which is $249,583, and a 2020 grant from the Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund, which is $374,375, in accordance with grant rules and regulations, for a total project estimated to be $998,333. 4, this resolution shall be submitted as part of the 2021 grant application package submittal to the New Jersey Historic Trust. 5, the mayor, the village clerk, together with all other appropriate officers, employees, professionals, and staff of the village, are hereby authorized and directed to take all steps necessary to effectuate the purpose of this resolution. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Perrin?
As I understand it, we don't have to dig into our own pockets for new money to make our match on this, and therefore I vote yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
I'm just going to reiterate that this application is supported by Historic Preservation Trust Fund and not any open space, so yes. And with that, we'll go to comments, back to comments from the public. Not to exceed this time, 5 minutes.
Okay, first person is Scarpa, ring and ring. Please unmute.
Okay, I am muted.
Okay.
Scarpa, 569 Northern Parkway, Ridgewood, New Jersey. I feel like I'm a broken record, but I'm trying to make a point here. I just wanted to go by the tax increase of 4.1, which was listed, I guess, from, I don't know who that person is, but I saw he didn't put in the school tax, which is 1.99. So really, the tax is a 6.1 increase, according to my figures. And I'm going to do this briefly. I probably won't even use the full 5 minutes. I just want to make some salient points. And I don't want to browbeat anybody. I just want to make the point in voting and doing the right thing. And as I said way before, when I started this whole thing, I never ever commented in Ridgewood. I never had a desire to do so. But when I feel something is really wrong, I go to bat for it, and I make sure my figures are right, and I did Oprah them, and I've always done it respectfully. I do want to say, and believe me, you know, I appreciate the firefighters. I think they do a fantastic job, but it is an increase in taxes of $180,728 for 2 more firefighters. And from what I understand, he already got one in December 2020. So I don't understand his justification. All right. Also, there will be excessive overtime, which will happen when the EMT leave. I talked to these people. I've talked to the EMT. I've talked to many people in town. We all feel the same way. You will see a decrease in community service. I don't know if you really saw what the EMT do for the community. When they leave, most of these programs are during the day, and volunteers are trained by them. Who's going to train them? I just don't think the fire and police can handle more than what they're already doing. I mean, I just see this as a value. I see a decrease in safety in town when the police and fire are stressed because the EMT are no longer there to help them, and an increase in dependence from help from other towns, and a decrease in safety when the EMT from neighboring towns cannot get to the village on time, especially during a fire, or God forbid, somebody is having a heart attack. I will say this, like I said, I've talked to people plainly, and they don't support defunding the EMT, just as they don't support defunding the police. From $70,000 that the taxpayer doesn't pay, the EMT is totally self-funded from ambulance. We have zero trust that our safety won't be compromised. And what we really want is for you to table that salient portion of your budget and be transparent and do a labor study and a money study and put it out to the taxpayer, just like the Board of Education does with a budget. This is what we're spending it on. Could you just, tell us what you want to do so we're transparent? I got to tell you, I did not get that from the February 21 a YouTube video. I listened to it over and over, listening to numbers, proof. Nothing was given. It was just thrown out there. I remember when I ran my budget for a school system, I have to present salient numbers to prove my point. I just don't think that was done here. And I just think it would be at a detrimental cost during a pandemic to just change everything, hire 2 more people, and then just get rid of the EMT and they would leave. I'm always welcome to any questions. If anybody wants to know how I came up with numbers, I'd be very happy to discuss it. But I'm really telling you this, Sean, and I stay awake just to make a point at the end. I'm speaking as a fellow taxpayer. I just don't feel good about this. I just don't think it would help any of them, fire, police, or EMT. They have to work together. And I will close by saying that I once heard a politician say that when the taxpayer is given a benefit and they like it, and it's been going on for decades and they grow accustomed to it, and you take it away, it becomes extremely unpopular in the town when you take away a benefit that they've come to enjoy. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you for listening to me. I know I could be a pain in the neck, but it's with a good heart. And thanks again for your hard work.
Thank you, Linda. Have a good evening.
You too.
Great. And the next one is Mr. Hallaby. Please unmute.
Good evening again.
Rorick Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. How can I get a copy of the plans that were submitted to SHPO? How can I get a copy of the plans for the berm? I continue to repeat myself the way I repeated myself about the loss of the trees in the train plaza. What you're embarking on is a fool's mission, basically, because in a couple of years, that berm would look like something out of a Charles Addams cartoon. It's going to look terrible. Now, how can we get a copy of it? Why isn't whatever you've given SHPO shown on the website? Why? Now, I call SHPO, they'll send it to me. If I call you, I have to do an Oprah, which means I have to wait 2 or 3 weeks. Why? I need to, as a taxpayer, I want to see whatever plans you've submitted to SHPO from you, from my village. I pay you the taxes. And also what plans the village engineer has for the berm. That's one question I have, one comment I have. The second question I have is, if I feel strongly that a member of a village council has a conflict of interest, in my opinion, why can't I say that? Why am I out of order to say that? Could someone tell me? Could someone tell me? I feel very strongly that one of you has a terrible conflict of interest, and that person should have recused themselves from any budget deliberation. If I mention the title or the name, oh my God, I'm out of order, and I get lectured on decorum. And let me tell you, I define decorum because I have integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Anyone else, Dylan?
Chloe Winograd.
Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
That was just to keep you on your toes. It's actually Siobhan. Don't tell her.
Oh, we were waiting for just a different.
Do not
voice.
tell her on a different computer.
Hello, Chloe.
It is, sorry, I'm downstairs. So Siobhan Cram Winograd, just going back to the, the documents and the accessibility, I do think that it would be a good idea to put the most currently submitted plans regarding Shedler on the website. I could use up the 5 minutes and say all these other things on top of that, but it's hard to have the conversation unless we're all looking at the same thing. And at this point, there's been what's done is done, and where you're at, the public needs to know. So I would encourage you to put the plan that was submitted The most recent one that I understand has been rejected, but put it up on the website. Let people know what's going on. So I think the final date that it was submitted was January 2021. That was the second submission. And I think it's in everybody's best interest to all be talking about the same thing, and that plan should go up on the website. So that's it. Don't tell Chloe, and have a good night.
Keep your secret. Okay. Anyone else, Dylan?
Yep. Another Lovings, please unmute.
Good evening.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Speaking of plans, I believe you approved the plan tonight for the intersection improvements, Franklin and Maple. If a copy of that plan could somehow or another be put on the web, it would be great to see what we're going to be looking forward to. That's those two intersections, Ridgewood and Maple, and Franklin and Maple are terrible now. It'd be great to see what we're going to be looking at down the road once those improvements are made. The mayor made some comments tonight regarding the 4th of July committee. With respect to the parade itself, I guess we're all pretty aware that the parade participants, the people who are actually going to be in the parade, could be engineered. That could all be engineered for safety standards. My concern would be what happens to the spectators. As you know, that parade route is generally jammed with people. Mayor Knudsen indicated tonight that you're thinking about shortening the parade route if you have a parade. To me, that's scary because that's going to take the same amount of people and put them into a shorter, smaller space. If it's spread out, people are going to have an opportunity to spread themselves out. If you shorten the route, everybody who wants to watch the parade is going to have to cram into an even smaller space. So I'm really concerned about what you're talking about in terms of the length of the parade, and what route you're talking about, whether that's going to result in a situation that we're trying to avoid with people standing so close to one another. Again, the parade participants, I realize that they could be spread out. They could be all told that you've got to wear a mask. They could, that could be perfectly engineered. But what happens on the route itself with respect to the spectators is what concerns me, particularly if the route is going to be shortened and you're going to have people from all over, people from many different municipalities come in to watch this. You're going to have a lot of people crammed into a small space. So please give some consideration about what you're going to do with that in terms of maybe trying to spread people out to a longer space, or have them in an area where they're not backed up against buildings in the CBD and they can spread out, whatever. Just concerns me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no others.
Okay, so just real quick, I'm happy I brought that in my council report, because that was the kind of feedback that actually makes a heck of a lot of sense. And that's part of what we'll be discussing once the committee puts together a little bit of a more concrete plan. Heather, just in terms of the Shedler plan, is there any reason that and Franklin Ave, is there any reason those can't go up? Because they're public documents, they went to SHPO.
Yeah, I just have to see if they're draft. That's all.
Okay.
I don't know. So I will check into that. If they're not, sure, we could put them up.
And then is the Franklin Avenue corridor, what about that one?
Same thing. I don't know if it's a draft plan, because again, I think it needs to be approved by Bergen County.
Right. Okay. All right, fine. So we'll just find out if they're not draft, we'll get them up on the website. And if so, we'll figure out how we're going to move forward. Okay. I think that was it.
You ready for the resolution? Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on April 14th, 2021 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter as a matter of the agenda can be reached. And the said closed session be held via Zoom teleconferencing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include one village, one vote litigation in the town garage, and personnel matters to include boards and committees, village clerk's office, and building department. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 And be it further resolved, that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the village council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Good night, public.
Good
Thank you
night.
for joining us.
Have a good one.
Bye, Bob.
All right. See you, Bob.